Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to my channel Soul Journey. My name is Beck, and today I wanted to talk about being multidimensional beings, specifically 5D beings, and kind of break some things down that I think people throw around like these terms casually, and I want to kind of break them down for you because I think we say these things and there's like these abstract ideas. Oh yeah, we're multidimensional. Oh, 5D, in the vortex. Your inner being lines up with things even if you're not, and like we can believe those things, but I think sometimes when we actually break down why it's like that or how that works, it's much easier to wrap our heads around it so we can move into that knowing better. So recently, I've been really thinking about these things and coming to some realizations about how the lining up with your manifestations thing works. And there's a lot of different facets, but I specifically wanted to talk about the part where Abraham talks about it a lot. Teal has talked about this. Bashar has talked about this. And so I wanted to break it down to really explain the multidimensional aspect of how we line up with the manifestations we desire. So, for those of you who listen to Abraham, they are almost constantly saying, your inner being is already lined up with the manifestation you desire. But because of your thoughts, you may not be meeting your inner being there. And you hear that and you're like, okay, but like, what does that mean? Right? And so really that takes us to, well, what does, where is the inner being? What level is that inner being at? And I was talking to my mother recently about what 5D reality will be like. And of course, we're not quite there yet, and we're putting it into 3D words, so it can be a little difficult to understand. But essentially, 5D removes the time and space aspect of this reality. So you can be physical in that reality, you can also be spirit in that reality, and essentially the idea is that as soon as you think a thought, it happens. That's 5D reality, whereas in 3D reality, there's that lag time. There's this really like intense physical aspect. So you have to move through the different realities to get to the one you want to. As we move towards 5D more, that time shortens because we're not experiencing so much of that lag time, because in 5D, again, as soon as you think it, it happens. It's pure creation, okay? So I was really thinking about that concept, and I was like, well, we're moving into 5D, and they say we're multidimensional beings. So what does multidimensional mean? It means different parts of our consciousness are on different levels. So of course we have the 3D consciousness, we have 4D consciousness, which is thought and the dream world and the astral realm. So we're already 3-4, and then planet Earth is already moving into 5D. And I was thinking about when Abraham talks about, well, your inner being or higher being, a lot of people say, your higher self, as soon as you think that thought, your inner being lines up with it. And I said, oh my gosh, that's 5D. And I was thinking about this concept because I was like, well, if my inner being is 5D, then of course, whenever I have a thought, it lines up with it, because that's how 5D works. And so it kind of made me realize, like, oh, that's how a part of me can be lined up with it in a reality I'm not perceiving, even though it's real, even though it's there. That part of me has lined up. And so as I align with my inner being, I become in more of a consciousness of 5D consciousness, if that makes sense. I know these words are they're very 3D, so they're kind of hard to play out. But essentially, the more lined up with your 5D higher inner self you are, the more 5D you are. So actually, as you line up with your inner being, you are coming into 5D consciousness, which some people call that Christ consciousness. And that's why it feels so good, because you are coming into alignment. See, we throw around these terms like, oh, are you in alignment, a vibrational alignment? Are you high frequency? Well, of course, 5D is very high frequency. We're not even perceiving it with our natural senses, right? So when we say we're high frequency, when we're in alignment, it means we're lining up with the aspect of ourself that is 5D. And you'll notice when you are in alignment, your manifestations happen like this, which is a 5D construct. Does that make sense? It's like I've known how this works, but the other day as I was explaining it to my mom, which oftentimes when I'm in that mode, I end up channeling my higher being's awareness, it like clicked for me. I don't know if I'm just like behind the curve, but I feel like a lot of us throw these words around, but we don't really know what they mean. We have this idea, it's very abstract, but we're not actually really thinking like, well, wait a minute, what does multidimensional mean? What does being in alignment with my higher self mean? Why is it that my inner being can line up with things immediately and I'm, slow to get there? This is why. It's because we are multidimensional. The larger part of us is already 5D. This is what we're not getting, is most of us are here bouncing around the 3D going, I need to ascend to 5D, I need to ascend to 5D. No, you don't. You already are 5D. The ascension experience is you consciously being in alignment with the 5D aspect of yourself. And the more you're in that, the more the world is going to be 5D for you. That's why this whole collective ascension thing, yes, a lot of us are moving into it simultaneously, but there's not going to be just one day where everyone's like, now we're 5D. Your 5D ascension process is going to be personal to you. You could ascend to 5D and your family could take years to get there. Of course, once you're in 5D, you're not really going to experience all that much, It's just going to feel like everyone's coming into alignment. So your ascension process is on your time, okay? Now, again, collectively as consciousness, we are moving in that direction quite quickly. A lot of people are waking up to the reality. They're coming in alignment with their 5D aspect. Okay, but you don't need to worry about any of those things, because as you line up with your 5D aspect, you are going to attract and experience, and what's going to be revealed to you are 5D experiences. So you actually will stop lining up with experiences that are so 3D, that are so out of alignment with that 5D aspect. And there's nothing wrong with the 3D experience. We came here to experience it. This was the point. We wanted to experience this realigning with our inner being. We wanted the contrast. That's what creates growth, right? We wanted to experience the juicy drama of the creation process. It's messy, it's dirty, it's like getting your hands in the clay. There's something fun about being in the molding of it. And when you're in the 3D, there's a slower molding. You get to really consciously be in that, okay, what do I want? What do I don't want? You're moving into this. It's very creative. Whereas 5D, you think it happens. There's not as much playfulness in that. And as much as it might seem in the 3D that might be fun, it ends up getting a little, okay, I can create what I want, whatever. So there's different expansion aspects of that reality, okay? And we can go farther into what the human consciousness going into 5D is going to bring to the 5D. That's a really cool conversation. If you're interested in that, you can comment that down below. But I hope this is making it a little bit clearer as to why when you're in alignment, your manifestations happen faster. It's because when you're in 5D, they happen immediately. So the more in alignment you are, the faster your manifestations come to you. See, Abraham talks about this, Bashar talks about this, but they're not explaining it in such specific terms. They're just saying, just believe it, because I think a lot of people aren't ready to understand these concepts, the actual physical. And Bashar talks about it a little more in depth, but I think we're ready to now start to understand it. And of course, some of these things are going to feel very abstract because our 3D mind is built for us to perceive the 3D. That's what it's made for. So these higher dimensional concepts are a little more challenging for our brain. And the higher dimension, the less and less it can comprehend that. And then of course the 3D words kind of make it difficult as well. But I hope I explain this a little better for you guys so you can really understand why being in alignment is so important for your manifestation process, but also for feeling good. When you are not in alignment with the majority of yourself, it's going to feel off. It's going to feel weird. You're going to be out of alignment. And of course, when you're out of alignment, you are not as privy to the awareness of your 5D aspect. That's why when we're in alignment, all the knowledge comes in. Everything lines up for us. We are very intuitive. We get all the inspirations we need to, get to where we want to be, because the greater part of ourself, our inner being, our higher being, is already there. And it's just, saying like, come over this way. And the more in alignment you are, the more you can hear those messages. Okay? So that's why understanding how to be in alignment, feeling good, if you're having a thought that doesn't feel good, you can basically say, okay, like this thought, whatever I'm feeling right here is clearly a thought that my inner being is not thinking. Okay? So it's not that you're denying it. It makes sense why you're having that thought, because of what you've perceived in the 3D, especially being out of alignment so much, because when we're unconscious of our higher inner being, we're out of alignment all the time. So we've had so many confirmations that that's how it is. All right. So it's not that the feeling or the thought is invalid. It's totally valid from what you've perceived. But you can also be in awareness that whatever that thought is out of alignment with your higher, greater being's knowing. And so you can kind of say, okay, there's something about this that's inaccurate. Okay. Again, it hasn't have to be a judgment, but you can say, all right, I'm not hitting the mark, which is interesting because, not to bring religion into this specifically, but kinda, the idea of sin, this idea of it being an evil thing is not actually accurate. The word sin originally meant not hitting the mark, okay? So you could almost say that sin, okay, means being out of alignment. And when you're out of alignment, you tend to do things that are not in love. You tend to do things that don't feel so good. You feel very separate from everyone else, so it's easier to cause harm to others because you don't see them as yourself. If you kind of take it, and let's not talk about maybe like what certain religions believe sin is, because that's their own belief system, right? But when we think about the concept of sin is not hitting the mark, it's essentially saying like you're out of alignment with spirit, right? Because, when they say you sin, that you are removed from God. See, all these concepts have been in the collective consciousness in very abstract ways. So it's time to take the lesson, remove it from the human construct, and say, okay, what are we looking at? We're talking about out of alignment, in alignment. In alignment with your divine aspect, the higher aspect of yourself, God, source, whatever, okay? And sin, or not hitting the mark, or being out of alignment, means you're not really tapped into love. God is love. We are love. Highest vibration is love, okay? It's all there, all right? So as we come into awareness of this, it's going to make it easier to understand why things are happening. And then our brains can wrap around and go, oh, of course. Well, that makes sense. So I need to be in alignment with my 5D self. We already are 5D. We need to stop judging this whole like, we're not in 5D. We're so messed up. We need to ascend. No, you just need to, on a personal level, consciously line up with the beliefs, thoughts, and actions of the aspect of you that's already 5D. It's already there. It's easy once you recognize it. Anything that's a struggle means that you're doing it on your own power and not fully in alignment with the power that creates worlds, as Abraham would say. Okay? So when you're in alignment, it's easy. Everything comes to you easily. The intuitions, the inspirations, the creations, the manifestations. It's easy because that 5D aspect of yourself has already manifested it. We just don't perceive it because our sensors are not 5D yet. But our consciousness is, which means we can line up with it because we're already there. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, comment down below. If you've liked this video, hit the like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you'd like to check out my other social media platforms, they are in the description down below. And I also have an Etsy shop if you would like a personal reading with me. And I also have a Patreon if you would like to support my ongoing content creation. Many blessings, you guys. Namaste. And don't forget, it's all about the soul journey.